This morning, as I was praying for y'all, and this meeting has been prayed for some time by our staff. We meet generally every morning. We call it 10 at 10, and it's never 10 minutes. But we've been praying for this. And as this morning, as I was praying, several thoughts came to my mind, and I want to start with this thought. And you'll see throughout this, I hope, that we are not here today to talk about really a political or a legal or a constitutional matter. It is much more than that. And I'm sorry, I need to stand still since I got a camera in the back here. I wish, well, anyway. So this morning as I was thinking about things, I put some scripture verses up on there. I had been reading some material on the Incarnation by Ignatius, who it was said stood against the world for Trinitarian thought against, I think it was Arianism. And I just read a book by Tozer, and both of them said very much the same thing, that in salvation, in redemption, God is doing the same work He's always done. He is constantly creating and recreating, that they are of the same kind of work. And so as I was thinking about that, and thinking about the fact that God is the great I Am, He convicted me that oftentimes I think of the God of our fathers, the God of the future, but in this moment, maybe He's not there, and maybe I am somehow alone. Maybe He's not the God who was or the God who will be. Is He the same? And can He do the same things He's always done? And that's where those verses struck me, that He is always doing what, in a sense, He's always done. Even now, my Father is working. And a few months ago, I was struck by a verse in Acts where I believe it is Stephen, who said, David, when he had accomplished the purpose of God in his generation, was laid to rest and decayed. And for those of you who get my newsletter, you'll get a comment on that. But I thought, what a powerful thing that David had a purpose for his generation. Yeah. It was as if God said, for this moment in time, this is what I need. And the Lord said to me, David, I knew this was going to be a tough time. He said of each of you, this was going to be a moment that I am in charge of, that I am bringing about, and I need you here for my purpose in this time. And that's true of every one of us in this room. And the really gratifying part of that verse was that when he died and decayed, his life was not wasted and over because he had served an eternal purpose. So whether we are here today or tomorrow or 100 tomorrows from now or 300 tomorrows from now, if we accomplish the purpose of God for our generation, it will have eternal ramifications to accomplish what God has been intending from the foundations of the world. What a blessing to be on that kind of team. The other thing that the Lord convicted me of was He took me to Habakkuk 1 this morning. And I want to just read this. It's familiar to you. How long, O Lord, will I call for help and you not hear? I cry out violence, yet you don't save. And he goes on. I mean, who of us, since particularly June, when the Supreme Court said that states had to allow marriage between two people of the same sex, haven't kind of cried out, how long, O Lord? How long is this going to go on? Aren't you seeing what's happening? And I love what God says. Look among the nations. Observe. Be astonished. Wonder, because I am doing something in your days. You wouldn't believe it if I were to tell you. And I thought, oh God, do not let that be me. Do not let that be us today. I am doing something, David, in your days because I'm always doing something. I'm always accomplishing my purpose. And you know what? Sometimes, David, you can get so hard-hearted that even if I told you what I was doing, you wouldn't believe it. Help my unbelief. Yeah. And then he drew me over to Acts chapter 4, when they've just been whipped and punished, and they said, for truly in this city we're gathered together against thy holy servant Jesus, against your servant Jesus, whom you did appoint, whom Pilate and Pontius Pilate and Herod, along with the Gentiles and the peoples. I mean, the whole world is against them, so to speak. to do whatever your hand and your purpose predestined to occur. And then in Colossians, he reminded me as we think of what our Supreme Court has done. And it's in chapter 2, verse 15. When he had disarmed the rulers and the authorities, he made a public display of them, having triumphed over them through him. It's in the past tense. Those that have come against us, against God, he has already disarmed, if we can believe that. And he is saying, I want to continue doing a new thing, advancing my purpose, and I have given you Christ as head over all things to the church, not just head of all things in the church, but over all things to the church, that I believe we might make a display of his authority over the authorities of men and call to naught who they are. And that's what I believe we're about today. And I hope in the next few moments that will be clear. The foundation for this presentation came after the Supreme Court's ruling. As I was thinking, what can we do? Oh Lord, what can we do? This verse where he says at the church of Sardis, I know your deeds. And he says, you have a reputation for being alive, but you are dead. And I hate to say, I wonder how could America have gotten to this point? How? And so he says, be watchful, wake up, strengthen the things which remain that are ready to die. For I have not found your work perfect or complete. Our work is not finished. America is not finished. I do not believe. But we must wake up and strengthen what remains. And in the next few moments, I want to tell you some of the things that remain that I believe God is calling us in our generation to do.